Coming up today on Eagle Eyes on Tech, Ubisoft got hacked, but it was really just to mess with the game. New York has banned the Raspberry Pi. We'll go into details on that. Asus might be the savior we're looking for, as they might be moving in to get into the RAM business. And of course, it's the new year, and we look back at last year's predictions and make some predictions for 2026. All that and more coming up today on Eagle Eyes on Tech. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, North 2 a.m. Good to bring this to Guys on Tech. I am Eagle Falcon. Yeah, I know we didn't record last week. The original plan was to record a podcast last week. That would have been the prediction episode. Then go take this week off so that we go into CES week fully rested. Oddly enough, this probably works better because we actually do have a lot to talk about. And we're not even into CES yet. Although, man, I have a hard time seeing in any way, shape, or form that we get excited for CES. Like, you can feel it in the tech space. There might not be a bigger sector of products that is more depressed than tech. And it's all thanks to our great overlords of AI, where the demand for the product simply does not exist unless you're an executive that drank the Kool-Aid that believes that, in fact, AI will go ahead and solve all your problems, even though Microsoft itself is proving time and time again that AI is going to end up being their own undoing. But we'll get into more about that later on. We're only just talking about it because we had a bit of a Microsoft kerfuffle that messed up with our audio, and I'm going to go ahead and just blame AI until I find proof otherwise, because Windows continues to want to turn me into a penguin lover. Maybe that's Microsoft's New Year's resolution. Not have users. Get everyone to go ahead and just embrace the penguin. If that actually does happen, I will laugh for a week straight. I don't know how I'll breathe, but I'll find a way. Meanwhile, though, I'm going to try and find ways to not laugh too hard at Ubisoft, who went ahead and had Rainbow Six Siege hacked. And basically only this game, only Rainbow Six Siege, ended up being hacked. And the hackers went ahead and just wanted to give billions upon billions of in-game credits to all their users while memeing it up within games, including getting all the lyrics to specific songs. You can probably guess which ones. There's actually quite a few, not just Never Gonna Give You Up. They didn't just rickroll people. But yeah, no, like, this is a massive hack, and these are honestly the kind of breaches that make me chuckle, because all it does is ruin an internal system where they could go ahead and ban and unban people, manipulate in-game moderation feeds, generate massive amounts of in-game currency, but no one had their data leaked, at least according to Ubisoft. Ubisoft has come out and said that, in fact, no actual data was breached, just that the in-game currency and moderation features were hacked. So as far as like modern day hacks, about the most harmless one that exists, even though, you know, it does ruin an in-game economy. But, you know, this is also Ubisoft we're talking about. It's very difficult for me to feel sorry for Ubisoft, considering that Ubisoft already just kind of doesn't really manage themselves very, very well, and continues to dig a deeper and deeper hole for themselves. It's honestly kind of impressive. It really, really is. But that is where that is at. Now, with that all being said, though, California is launching a brand new tool, the actual state of California, that is supposed to help residents delete their personal data online. Now, here's the problem. The tool will in fact help delete stuff on certain government sites, so they have compliance themselves, but other companies are supposed to be, in order to comply with the California law, make their system compatible with this one. Good luck. Just good luck. Because far too many, like, first off, what California is hoping here with this is a pipe dream. And already the story is over, and the actual video is trying to switch to the much more current news. So the whole point is to try and get companies to comply with this, which, for all I can say, is good luck with that. Most companies don't want to go ahead and comply with anything like this, since it does create potential security vulnerabilities. And also, most of these sort of outfits don't exactly have, or at least the ones you really want to get your data from. The point I'm trying to get to is that while, yes, there's a lot of companies that legitimately hold your data, and it's important to go ahead and make sure they're handling it at once, the problem is the data brokers. And there's no data broker you're going to get to comply with this, because almost all data brokers operate outside the US. What's California going to do? Deny the data broker the ability to go ahead and operate within the state of California? Whoop-de-doo! They never cared about anyone's compliance. They do go on to say that data brokers that do fail to comply could face fines up to $200 per day per violation. Again, they operate outside the US. How are you going to enforce this? They're not going to pay any fine. You have nothing other than we're going to fine you. And they're going to be like, good luck finding us to even issue your fine. Sorry, that's pretty much how this is going to go down. Good luck. There's really no other way to say it, unfortunately. Meanwhile, though, on the other coast, we have another bit of "are you kidding me" in the tech space. Over in New York City, a very high-profile mayor by the name of Zoran Mamdani has been now inaugurated as the mayor and is now currently in office. Right away, he has issued a few things. One of them, surprisingly enough, is the ban of two small electronic devices: the Flipper Zero and the Raspberry Pi. What? Why? So, okay, let's start from the beginning. All right. Actual New York City is not in great shape. This is a surprise to no one that pays mild attention to the news when it comes to New York City. Okay. These two devices, the Flipper Zero, can be used in the right hands to issue bypass commands. Okay. Someone who is skilled with Flipper Zero can in fact use it to take control of PA systems, can use it to bypass electronic locks. Like, somebody skilled with a Flipper Zero can do a lot of damage. In a related story, somebody skilled with a screwdriver can also do a lot of damage. The Raspberry Pi, on the other hand, tell me you don't understand the Raspberry Pi without telling me you don't understand the Raspberry Pi. All the Raspberry Pi is a cheap computer on a board. That's it. It's a low power system on a chip. It has a whole bunch of I/O, USB-C, USB-A. Some versions even have a serial out, a headphone jack, micro HDMI. Like, there's all sorts of things you can do with a Raspberry Pi. But here's the thing. If you're going to ban the Raspberry Pi, you should also ban all cell phones. If your whole concern is that it's a small computer that can do anything, this right here, this Android phone, ooh, it is also a small compute device that can do almost anything. Ooh, but that's controlled by Google. Well, if I'm smart enough to use a Raspberry Pi, guess what? I am smart enough to jailbreak this and do all kinds of damage with this. Like, if we're going down the road of ultra paranoia, this really does just show that whoever's in charge does not understand this at all. Now, the ban was in place just for the inauguration. There is talks currently in place that may spread this beyond just the inauguration and into the city, which, by the way, good luck enforcing that. Just of all the things. Not to mention the thing the thing that actually just makes this funnier. It's not that they made a broad thing about saying, oh, we're not going to allow small open source compute devices, and just like it caught these two. they caught these two specific devices that are just kind of weird. No. They mentioned these by name. Who wants to tell them there's plenty of other Raspberry Pi clones that go by different names? In fact, actually, here, I got another tab over here on the side screen. Let's just type in Raspberry Pi alternatives. Oh, let's see here. We have the Orange Pi, the Radza Zero, the Milk V Duo S, one by Asus, just called the Asus Tinkerboard, the Libre Compute Le Potato, and that's just the dumb ones that AI came up with off the bat. If we go to a real source like Reddit, who lives and breathes for this sort of stuff, we've got Orange Pi, Banana Pi, Armbian. Oh, wait, no, that's the OS they're putting on there. A huge list of products from Libre.computer. Yeah, the point is that, yeah. So, we'll see how this goes, but already, like, first impressions are important, all right? And before you go, oh, there was an entire election, you could have made your first impressions. Elections and actually being an, well, here, the actual campaign is way different than what a official does when they first enter. Someone in chat says, I know you're right, but they're trying to stop bleep hats walking around causing issues with the Flipper Zero. Sadly, Raspberry Pi is going to be implemented the same way, so the only option is to really ban cell phones. What can be done, however, is to actually go ahead and strengthen the security on your interfaces. Like, one of the reasons the Flipper Zero works so well is for way too long. And I get that we can't go ahead and do this for everything. It's going to take time to do that, to do this sort of thing. But one of the reasons why the Flipper Zero was so effective against, say, Kia cars, because that was a big thing the Flipper was used for, was to steal Kias, is because Kia had no security. Even basic countermeasures stop most dinguses trying to use a Flipper Zero. Is there a way around it? Most likely. But it's not like the Flipper Zero is off-the-shelf robbery tools. I mean, really, the better way to think about it, a Flipper Zero is like a lockpick, okay? Somebody skilled enough, like, say, McNally or the lockpicking lawyer, can go ahead and take a lockpick and pop open a lock in seconds because they have the skill. You put the same lockpick into, say, my hands, odds are pretty good I'm not going to be able to get the lock open because I'm not as skilled. But if you give me a crappy lock, like some of the practice locks I actually have with my grandfather's set, I can get those open. Someone in chat says that kind of upgrading implementation costs money, and honestly, that kind of money doesn't exist without drastically increasing taxes. That's part of the problem that New York has, is the fact their finances are horribly mismanaged. However, if they actually go in, and I want to restate, right now this is just for the inauguration. If they move forward with this in the city, there's a good chance it's going to cost just as much trying to enforce the ban. And when push comes to shove, it might not do a whole lot, especially with how thin that police force is already stretched. So, all we can do is wait and see how it all goes. There really is nothing else at the moment. And right now, all we can do is wait and see how things go with everyone's favorite topic, the RAM. The RAM crisis is now getting so bad that one of the bigger boutique system builders, Main Gear, now has an option to ship your computer without RAM in a bring your own RAM kind of build. So what they do is that they build the whole system, they test it with RAM, and then take out the RAM and then ship it to you. You know, not all that long ago, we joked about this being a move someone might make, that they're just going to ship out the computer without RAM. Here we are. Lo and behold, computers shipped without RAM. It actually did happen. You know what's sad? If I found a buyer for the RAM that's in my system and going into the next system, I could sell my RAM, buy a used workstation to use as my streaming rig, move into that rig, and have enough left over to pay for 2 months worth of rent. This is the insanity we're dealing with right now. It's crazy. It is actually insane. Someone literally just said, get a Mac. No. You know the Mac prices are going to be going up, right? I mean, that's such an easy prediction. I didn't even put it on my thing. Why would getting a Mac solve your problems? Apple still has to get their RAM too. Yeah, $200 more. Oh, you foolish fool. You can see Apple bring your own RAM. I can't. Do you know why? Do you know where Apple's RAM is? Other than the Mac Pro, Apple's RAM is on the chip. The Mac Studio might also have some SODIMMs, but all of the Apple RAM is not only soldered in, but is soldered into the chip. It uses unified HBM memory directly on the die. Most RAM manufacturers are just choosing not to make consumer DDR5 because they'd rather the capacity for server RAM. Apple is in direct competition with the server GPU RAM. So no, you have to go through Apple, and you have to do it when you get the product new. Heck, more and more users right now nowadays are actually going to older systems just so they can use DDR4. Heck, the plans I'm doing for my home lab, if things improve, is to actually stop at 12th generation servers because they use DDR3, which is still out there in surplus because every single data center out there has, you know, is trying to get rid of all that stuff. So there's a glut of the stuff, and that price is going to be untouched. And I'm doing nothing high end. So, you know, only having 20 cores and only having 128 gigabytes of RAM, not bad for a home lab setup, even though it's at the slower speeds. But there you have it. Someone in chat says, except you'll pay a lot for power. It won't be that bad. It won't be that bad. We're only talking a handful of servers, only at certain times. It's not like, the fortunate thing is that there's still going to be pretty high core count setups. It's not like having a dozen, like 12 core servers all then clustered together to make one modern server. Like, that would be terrible. Terrible setup. Like, what I have planned for shouldn't be too terrible as far as power consumption. Is it as efficient as a brand new one? No. But it's not going to be that much more power inefficient. And especially at the price of RAM, yeah, no, it would take a significant amount of time for it to cost more than that. But we're going to go ahead and take our first break here. When we come back, there might be a savior in the RAM world. Here's a spoiler for you. No, there is no savior. This is all maximum amount of hopium. But we'll get into what people think might happen. Don't go anywhere. We will be back. Welcome back, you guys, on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. Now, you want to know what our RAM savior is? Well, let me tell you who everyone thinks it's going to be. Everyone thinks It is going to be Asus. Rumors are spreading that Asus is going to be entering the DRAM market. Ah, thank God. There's only three manufacturers of RAM, but with Asus there'll now be 4, and everything will be better now. All right. I want you for a moment to come down from your high, all right? Because there's a couple of important things to note here, okay? It takes a minimum of 2 years to build a fabrication plant to manufacture RAM. In fact, that same rule almost applies with any kind of fabrication plant that manufactures any kind of silicon. It is not something you can rush because everything is now so finely tuned that you cannot rush any part of the process. In fact, you're more than likely to have delays during the process than you are to actually end up ahead of schedule. It's just something that doesn't happen. Okay? So, I mean, when I say 2 years minimum, I really do mean 2 years bare minimum. Bare minimum. And before you go, well, I mean, they make their own motherboards. How is this different? It's different. Trust me, it's different. It is very, very different to go ahead and add slots, circuitry, tracings, and put in pre-manufactured chips onto a board than it is to make the chips from scratch. If Asus is really going to enter the RAM market, you know what they're more likely to do? They are more likely to buy the RAM modules, or rather the actual chips themselves, and then put those onto a board themselves and sell it as Asus RAM. The same way that Corsair sells RAM, the same way that G-Skill sells RAM, the same way that Kingston sells RAM, the same way that pretty much every single RAM name out there that isn't Crucial, SK Hynix, or Samsung sells their RAM. They, at least, those three I mentioned, do make their own RAM from scratch. Although I don't think SK Hynix ever sold RAM directly to consumers, Samsung does. And Crucial tragically said, nope, we're out, deuces. And when everyone said everyone hates this, we're just like, come on, hate us, we dare you. Someone in chat says Samsung sells RAM to consumers. You know, I was about to say I don't think they do, but I could have swore when I was going picking up the parts for the rig I have right now, I did see Samsung packages for RAM, but it would not surprise me at all if I saw something else and it was actually that Samsung only sells modules to board partners. So I'm a little iffy on that one. I'm not willing to go ahead and say that Samsung directly sells to consumers. I think they do, but I'm not 100% sure. It also doesn't help at all that I deal with a lot of server RAM. And when you start getting those sort of ECC fully registered DIMMs, you do remember seeing SK Hynix and Samsung on those, because those Micron and Samsung, or Micron, SK Hynix, and Samsung will go ahead and make and sell directly to data centers and server manufacturers. So it is very easy for me to misremember that sort of stuff. Now, what's even better, in case you're getting too high on hopium here for Asus did in fact later on go ahead and issue the statement, no, Asus is not going into memory manufacturing. Just in case you thought, oh, they'll save us in two plus years when they build their fab. They're not. Like I said, the most you can expect is for them to be willing to go and be a board partner. But otherwise, we are still going to be at the mercy of Micron, Samsung, and SK Hynix. Whee! I'm telling you, reject modernity, embrace DDR3. It is the only way forward, is to go backwards. Clearly. In other news, Nvidia has bought Grok for $20 billion. No, not that Grok. GROQ, which is a chip manufacturer for small ARM chips that is intended for AI. And what's even better is that NVIDIA actually technically hasn't acquired it. They merely have invested 20 billion into Grok to go ahead and power more AI. Nonsense. Now, really what this is investing in other areas just in case things go south. Because right now, NVIDIA is kind of in a weird spot. Okay? Hear me out for a second. Many of the big AI data centers, Microsoft even come out openly and said this, their limiter right now is not the hardware. It is the power to power the data centers is their biggest factor. They have hardware ready to go into data centers, but no power to power the data centers that are not even built yet. So now if we go back to that simple supply and demand sort of thing, the demand is going down simply because there aren't enough power plants yet to power AI data centers, which means the supply goes up, which means theoretically the price should start going down. However, or someone in chat says they'll convince utilities to disconnect homes. No. No, they won't. I think that'd be the last straw for a lot of people if they start. They're just like, you know what? We're going to disconnect all of Gary, Indiana to go ahead and power the data centers. No. There is no way that would happen. Someone in chat has, do you have law to prevent that from happening over there? No, but you need approval from the governing body to do that. And there's no sane government that would go ahead and say, yeah, put our entire town into a blackout. It'll be fun and exciting. No, it ain't going to happen. You really think there's going... All right, chat is saying that we're cooked. You really think that there is an entire mayorship and governing body that would willingly go ahead and end their careers by approving a total blackout of their own city to power a data center? Some people are insane. They're not that insane. You could not pay an entire government that much, because it would be career suicide. It would be the end of that power company. It would be the end of every political official in that city. What's going to happen? Riots? Yes! 100% it would be yes, it would be riots. There would be riots in the street. Dude, we riot over the littlest thing right now. Are you insane? No. You really think the city would go ahead? We're getting way too into the political weeds, but no freaking city would go ahead and willingly disconnect their own city to power one data center. That's insane. The ramifications would greatly outweigh any kind of bribe that would have to happen to make that happen. Even if it did happen, which it wouldn't, because no one is that stupid, that would end up being the spark that pops the bubble. Alternative power becomes so expensive that nobody but data centers can afford it. Counterpoint. If the data centers are already being built on debt, how are they going to pay for the even higher cost of power to go ahead and manage themselves without their debt collectors wondering where's their money? I get the situation is grim, and it is. Don't misunderstand me. But companies cannot just pile up infinite debt. No one, not OpenAI, not Microsoft, not anyone can rack up infinite debt. If they push their luck as hard as you're all suggesting, something will give. And I'll tell you right now, no city, no town, not even a small rural community, and also a small rural community shutting down one of those, and the 20 kilowatts the entire small rural community takes up is not going to do squat for the amount of power a data center consumes. it would have to be a city. It would have to be a large town to power one data center. Like, that's the kind of power we're talking about here. And there is simply no way anyone would risk the riots that would happen because that entire town was plunged into darkness. It's just a risk no local official would ever take. It is an insane scenario. We call it an incentive to invest in solar panels. The problem is that these stupid data centers want to run 24/7, which then means they would have to, like, how much extra solar would they need? Like, they need more square footage. You're talking about, oh, the people to invest in solar panels? Oh, there'd be riots before then. 100%. No one would look at it being an incentive to invest in solar panels and say, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh no. They'd look at the increased power costs as being reasons to invest in solar. And even now, there's communities that are rejecting these systems being built. There is already a proposal up in Port Washington, my neck of the woods. Not like in my neck of the woods, but a couple of towns over. That proposal was rejected solely because they didn't have the power infrastructure, and there was concerns about the water, which, honest, of all the things that the data center concerns are, the water one is overblown. The everything else is not. But like God, so many anti-AI activists are talking like these AI data centers are going to just like chug up like the entire ocean, and then there's going to be no more ocean. That's not what's going to happen. There is a water consumption factor in this, but it's nowhere near as bad as the power consumption. Yeah, fabs actually do take up water because they need to go ahead and have like pure, like really purified distilled water, and they go ahead and like distill it down. And like there are some fabs I've seen in documentaries of that they go ahead and try to reprocess their own water to save on water. But yeah, no, fabs do consume a noticeable amount of water. Data centers, it is all a closed loop. You fill the loop once, that's it. No, chat, that's what I'm saying. Like the people who are like trying to go ahead and say like data centers are going to take up large amounts of water and it's a huge concern for the local environment. No, they are not going to consume. They're saying like hundreds of thousands of gallons of water, like what some of the activists are talking about. And it's just like, no, that's not a real issue. It is a non-issue compared to everything else. But yeah, NVIDIA is investing into Grok. Not that Grok. That Grok, however, it has their own controversy, and that is creating CSAM. This is why RAM is so expensive, by the way. A trend on the artist formerly known as Twitter was just going around and asking Grok to go ahead and remove clothes on a picture. Actually, let's even go further beyond that. Twitter introduced a new feature, and that is on any still image, you can click one button and ask Grok to use the power of AI to alter the picture. And Grok, using the power of AI, would go ahead and just undress whoever it is, or whatever it is. Including minors. At least one image has gone around of Grok. I have not seen it, but I've only heard of a confirmation of one, of a minor completely exposed, generated by AI. Good job. This is the future. This is the future. Illegal porn being generated by AI. Now, what's funny is that the feature has caused more and more artists to instead upload their pictures as GIFs, because the feature only works on still images, so it doesn't work on single image GIFs. So on one hand, it's actually really funny. And then I just... Who thought this was a good idea? Like, seriously, who thought this was a good idea to just go ahead and have one button generate edits with AI and not put even the most basic of safety precautions on it? But that's the appeal of Grok, isn't it? To get around those pesky limitations. Well, this is the result. Good job, idiots. Good job. This is why your RAM's more expensive. Just remember that. Meanwhile, though, Microsoft wants to go and have a civilized discussion involving AI. You see, Microsoft realizes that AI is the future. It is a tool that'll be used by all for all kinds of products. It's going to be integrated into everything we use. So therefore, we should go ahead and in 2026, embrace AI and stop calling it slop. Now, while I can appreciate Microsoft wanting us to go ahead and stop calling AI slop, but what Microsoft doesn't realize is the fact that, honestly, the reliability of AI is just not quite there yet. And it has caused people to go ahead and look at companies like Microsoft and just look at their products and just go, why do you do this to me? Why does your sound drivers insist on just ignoring the parameters it's set and just do whatever the heck it wants? Why, in fact, does, after you embrace AI, does a product made by Microsoft just decide to completely wipe out SSDs or the infinite number of other bugs that has happened in Microsoft Windows? So here, Microsoft, I will go ahead and just make this statement for you on behalf of literally everyone that uses Microsoft Windows. I will stop calling AI slop when you put out a product that isn't trash. How about that? You get rid of MS Paint, you get rid of WordPad, you make Notepad unusable thanks to Copilot. Your Copilot agents don't do their one job. You put out OS breaking bugs every other week. You're slow to go ahead and fix your own bugs. Actual Microsoft Office now had its cost increase 10 times and is now a service that only exists in the cloud. The actual Xbox ecosystem is now so weak that you got beaten out by an Android console that came out on AliExpress. But no, AI is the future. Stop calling it slop. Here's an idea. Make a product that doesn't suck. Because let me tell you, it's getting more and more and more and more tempting to ditch Windows and go use Linux. Despite how much of a headache that sort of migration would be. And believe me, it would be a massive headache. But considering the fact that every 2 weeks I got to deal with something new that breaks, it's really, really tempting. So good luck, Microslop. Which, by the way, that's now my new New Year's resolution. To no longer call it Microsoft. It's now Microslop. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we got a bit more hardware news to talk about before we get into the predictions. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. Looking into the future, there's one report that I don't think is going to be as bad as people believe it is, but it's still concerning. There are reports out there that the GeForce RTX 5090 may in fact soar as high as $5,000 as GPU prices are expected to increase in early 2026. This is expected to happen in Q1 of 2026. And this is all due, of course, to the RAM shortages, all because of AI. Now, I do not think the base price of a 5090 is going to go from $2,000 to $5,000. I think that is insane. I do think, however, some of the more higher priced, premium, over the top, expensive 4090s that are $3,000 or $4,000 now may have their prices increased to $5,000, which is where this report, or this rumor, I should say, probably originally got its legs. So no, I don't think there is going to be a 250% price increase on GPUs. I do think there will be a substantial increase on the price of GPUs. I do think it's going to be somewhere close to 20 to even as high as 40%. I do not think it's going to be almost triple the value of, well, actually in this case it'd be time and a half or double and a half. What would that be? It doesn't matter. So no, I don't think the report is going to be correct, but I do think it's something that you do need to keep in mind looking forward, that GPU prices are going to go up. Like that's just a fact. Looking forward, however, we should also think about, do you really need a high-end GPU? Because of course, if NVIDIA is going to go ahead and increase the cost of the 5090 by a lot of money, just go to AMD. Easy move, right? Well, AMD is also expected to increase prices of their GPUs, but also they have a similar issue to what NVIDIA has. We now have an RX 9070 XT that had its connector melt after, quote, almost a year of use. Now, I want to stress, this is one report of one GPU that has failed. Okay? This is not a widespread issue. We shouldn't all just avoid all of these high-end GPUs, that it's all over. Just stick with budget ones so you don't risk having your money go up in flames. This is not anything like that. All right? This is not what's going on. That being said, however, this is still something to keep an eye on, especially down the road when you look at used GPUs. Like personally, I would still recommend getting a used 4000 series card instead of buying a brand new 5000 series card. It's going to be nearly the same performance and you're going to be saving money, which you need to buy your RAM. Sorry, it's true. That's just the way of building right now in the year of 2026. It just is what it is. In other news, though, Good Old Games, GOG, is now going to be acquired and owned by its original co-founder. So this is going to be Michael. I can't pronounce that last name. I'm sorry. I'm not even going to bother trying. Michael is now going to be part of the ownership of Good Old Games. And for the most part, right away, not a whole lot is going to change. However, unlike most other acquisitions where we just go, oh, it's all over. Oh no. It's going to be corporatized and all the money is going to just go to the investors and everything is going to be awful and everything I loved about the company is going to be gone and everything's going to be terrible and I just want to go and play games and it's all ruined. It's not going to be anything like that. Chat is trying to go ahead and tell me how to pronounce it, that apparently it's Kiesinski. If that's wrong, it's chat's fault. I respect the man too much to mispronounce his name. It's chat's fault. I accept no blame. But in this case, considering the fact that Michael was in fact one of the co-founders and that Good Old Games' original purpose from the get-go was game preservation, I imagine that this acquisition is going to push them more back into what GOG originally stood for. But that's not going to be a change we're going to see for probably several months. So if you're hoping for games that are DRM free and old school and not riddled with all kinds of problems, we are probably still going to be seeing that from GOG. We're probably going to be seeing more of that. Don't worry. This is one of the few times where you hear, such and such is under new ownership, and it's not a bad thing. I know, a rare thing to hear nowadays. But don't worry. I think everything might actually be fine. Meanwhile, though, iOS 26.3 is now out. And apparently it's going to be bringing iPods-like pairing to third-party devices in the EU. Come on, Apple. Come on. Do it for the rest of the world, you coward. Do you really just want to prove everyone right? That you really are just being jerks for the sake of personal gain and profit? Don't you want to prove that you can be cool people too? Do it. Do it. Come on, Apple. Do it. They're not listening to me. Who am I kidding? I'm just talking to a wall. Literally, there's actually a wall right behind this camera. I'm literally talking directly at a wall. There just happens to be a microphone between me and the wall. It is disappointing to see this sort of thing. Aha! Chat admitted they're wrong! It's Kichinsky. If that's wrong, it's also chat's fault. I went ahead and just washed my hands of this, saying I respect the man too much and I'm gonna get it wrong. The point is, Apple could go ahead and bring cool features to to devices that are not AirPods, but they're not going to because they're cowards. And yeah, it'd be nice to see these features come to other places, but this is the Apple way. They're just simply not going to do it. It just is what it is. In other news, excuse me, I'm just looking at my notes here. Actually, I had less left than I thought. I actually should have gone ahead and just done the predictions. I'll do the predictions after this. I'll go over what I was correct and wrong about right after the story of the fact that a former Samsung engineer was accused of giving 10 nanometer DRAM data to China, where their handwritten notes detailed over 600 process steps, as well as the gas flow ratios and many, many other steps of creating this RAM. What do you think's gonna happen to that guy? Like, I honestly don't know. Like, Samsung's most likely just gonna sue the ever-loving crap out of that guy for leaking intellectual property and trade secrets to direct competition, right? I don't know if the Korean government would get involved at all, because this could be looked at as espionage, but I don't know for sure. Would it even be espionage? What would it be as? Like, there's so many questions when it comes to this sort of stuff. And on top, and the fact that it's also, talking about Samsung and South Korea, a government body that I'm very unfamiliar with, other than the fact that you shouldn't go ahead and be a complete jerk in public, like a certain nuisance streamer who is trapped in South Korea, stuck in the legal system for years because he decided to be a a-hole in public, which I'm not gonna lie, is still really, really funny to me. I have no pity for Johnny Somali. I'll just be very open about that. That guy made his own bed, and it's not a pretty one. Whew. Good luck to that jerk. No remorse at all. So yeah, this will be a fun one to follow up down the road as we learn more. Like I said, I imagine Samsung's going to go ahead and press charges of leaking corporate secrets. And I got a feeling that whatever bribe he took to do what he did is going to be canceled and then some by what occurred. All right, let's actually get to the predictions. First, we're going to go over the predictions I put out in 2025. And I will tell you right now, holy smokes, were so many of these wrong. Oh my God, were so many of these wrong. Man, beginning of 2025, Eagle was full of so much hope. He was full of so much hope. It was comical. So first up, that was predicted at the beginning of 2025 that the next gen Switch will not be called the Switch 2. 100% incorrect. It was in fact the Switch 2. The iPhone SE will launch again using the iPhone mini body. Also 100% incorrect. The iPhone SE never launched at all. The RTX 5090 will start at $1299. What did the RTX 5090? This 2025 felt like it lasted 5 years. The RTX 5090 launch price. The GeForce RTX 5090 launched with a recommended retail price, the MSRP of $1999. Incorrect. Nvidia will start focus on cheaper cards. That didn't happen. The TikTok ban is upheld in court, but executive action will save it from being banned. I don't know if the TikTok ban ever got her TikTok ban court case. The main TikTok ban case, TikTok versus Garland, ended in January 2025 with the U.S. Supreme Court unanimously upheld the law requiring Japanese parent company ByteDance to sell TikTok. This actually is correct then. The ban was in fact upheld, but in fact executive action did save it. So that is 100% correct to the dot. I just didn't talk about anything that happened after that, because the actual story is the TikTok ban was upheld, executive action saved it, it was delayed, and then delayed again, and then delayed again, and then did agree to sell, and TikTok was never actually banned. SteamOS launches to new major branded Dell, HP, Acer, Lenovo, etc. SteamOS desktop consoles. So this is going to seem like a cop-out, but I'm going to count this as half, because SteamOS did launch to other major brands, but not as desktop consoles. Dell, HP, MSI, Lenovo, all of them can now create Steam handhelds, but not as Steam consoles yet. We did get announced the Steam Machine, the first desktop console, but that operating system has not launched for anyone to use yet for home consoles. So that is half points. Dan Clancy will not be the CEO of Twitch by the end of the year. Tragically, no, that idiot is still around. AI mainstream marketing begins to vanish as regulation against AI begins. Wrong. You can argue that AI mainstream marketing has weakened slightly, but there has been no regulation yet pushed up against AI in any significant amount. Apple will be silent about Vision OS hardware products. Incorrect. We got an update to the Vision Pro. And TC Helicon puts out a new Go XLR product this year. Can I just mark this as double wrong? Because not only did TC Helicon not put out a new Go XLR product, but the Go XLR team is gone. There is no chance for any Go XLR product to exist at all. The team is gone. Which means for this one is probably a record low of 15% correct. Whew. Oof. That's bad. That's really bad. Like I said, last year Eagle was so hopeful, and nope, none of it happened. Like pretty much nothing happened. The only thing that happened was the one that seemed very obvious at the time, and that was this one. Now, for the 2026 predictions. By the way, WordPad is gone. That's why the formatting is so radically different between 2025 and 2026. Because now I have to use an actual word processor. Because WordPad is gone. Someone in the chat just said that Neurosama has just broken the Twitch hype train record for the third time. Before you just immediately hear that, oh my god, the AI VTuber has gone ahead and broken the Twitch records. At least Neurosama is a locally hosted project that has been worked on for many years by a small team, and isn't like some mega corporate giant sucking up all the power in the area to power a massive data center to turn out slop. Like, Neurosama has been in the work long before generative AI has been a thing. So congrats to Neurosama. I actually can appreciate that team and what they're doing. All right, so let's look at the 2026 predictions, and none of them are good. So first up, I do predict that there will be no major console launches from Sony or Microsoft this year. We are due for a PS6 and a new Xbox, believe it or not. I do believe they are both going to delay it beyond this year and possibly even into next year, simply because of the RAM shortage. I also do believe the Steam Machine, I don't think we've gotten a date yet for the Steam Machine, nor a price, but I do believe the Steam Machine is also going to be delayed into 2027, also because of the RAM shortages. If you were to put out new consoles, like the Steam Machine, there is no way they're going to make the Steam Machine under current pricing and have it be under $1,000. It's going to be impossible. Not when the RAM alone is going to start flirting with $600-700 before you even get to the CPU and GPU. Like, it's getting insane. So I think the Steam Machine is going to be delayed until next year. Nvidia is going to start focusing and pushing their cloud gaming services more. I think this is just a no-brainer. Nvidia is a very predatory, opportunistic company. Like, that's the only way you can look at the way they operate now. They're looking at the crisis they have helped create, and are going to take this as an opportunity to go ahead and say, hey, you can't go ahead and get a gaming PC because the RAM's too expensive. There's GeForce Now, or whatever the hell it's called now. Phone companies are going to focus more on their budget phones, which will, of course, feature significantly less RAM. I think it's going to be a big thing, because it's going to be very difficult to go ahead and push these guys out and try to say that the new S27 is a huge upgrade and cut down the RAM to keep the price sub 1,500. Because the price of LPDDR5 is also going up. So we're going to look at trying to push cheaper phones out there rather than trying to push the crazy high-end, $2,000 foldables coming back. Yeah, even expanded storage is starting to make a comeback, which is wild. I also believe Apple, again, easy prediction. I don't think there's going to be any major product announcements out of Apple aside from current product refreshes and a new iPhone. I don't think you're going to see like any sort of major redesign of existing products. I don't think we're going to see like a new MacBook or anything of that nature. I think they're going to go ahead and just stick to a holding pattern and just hunker down while they hope that this RAM crisis kind of passes by the end of the year. Google is going to be looking to pitch their Chromebook replacement as a tool for cloud compute. So we already know there is going to be a replacement for the Chromebook. It is not going to be a Chromebook anymore. It is going to be powered by something else. I forgot what the actual operating system is called, but it's going to be Android based. I think they're going to be pushing it as a tool for cloud computing. Kind of what the Chromebook was supposed to be. But the big push is going to be nowadays because, well, it's harder to go ahead and compute at home. So why not go ahead and say, hey, do your compute in the cloud? Microsoft will also officially launch a Windows in the cloud platform. They have talked about doing this for a while, about having a cloud computer you rent in the cloud and sign in anywhere. I think this is going to be the year that Microslop actually goes ahead and pushes it out officially. We will see that happen this year. NVIDIA will also not announce any super GPUs. We thought it was for certain we were going to start seeing 5090 supers, 5080 supers, 5070 supers, and whatnot. I don't think it's going to be a single super GPU this year. AMD is going to try and push out some budget GPUs with lower VRAM, but no one's going to catch on to it because, well, they can't afford the rest of the computer. What makes you think they're going to go ahead and get the 6 gigabyte GPU? It's not going to be good. And Here's the only bit of good news I can predict, and I hope this is right, but it probably won't be, or it's going to be hard to prove that it did. I am hoping the AI bubble will pop by the end of the year. It's very, very easy hearing all of the doom and gloom, but if you look at the amount of debt these companies are racking up, if you're looking at the amount of everyone buying up more and more money from buying up more and more from everyone else, all it's going to take is someone to ask, where's my money? Because there's a whole lot of spending and not a whole lot of money being made. And it's all for a product that has very little mainstream demand. It's very simple, basic economics. You see the supply grow more and more and more and more and more and more, but there is not a lot of demand. It is a very, very, very clear bubble. Very, very clear. And there's a lot of reasons why it hasn't popped yet, but it will pop. And some people are saying it's not going to pop until 2028, 2029. I think it's going to pop this year as the demand continues to shrink and the supply continues to grow. Again, something has to give. The question is, what? With that, though, we're going to take our last break. When we come back, I got some fun, weird stories to go ahead and look at. So don't go anywhere. We'll have some quirky fun. We'll be back. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. Now, there's a lot of bad ideas out there. And normally you expect, like, states to not fall for bad ideas. I have to ask, who thought this was a good idea? The state of Florida has agreed to start building a highway that can wirelessly charge EVs while you drive. Okay, first off, I know that wireless charging has been a concept for electric vehicles. I am 95% certain there is no current electric vehicle that is purchasable that supports wireless charging. Like, wireless charging with EVs is currently in the realm of, like, CES levels of concept. Like, it only exists in the fairy tales. The other thing is also just basics of current wireless technology. It takes a while for a handshake to happen. Okay? The concept of wirelessly charging the EV while you drive means that you're moving from one charging coil to another, to another, to another, to another, at anywhere from 25 miles an hour to 70 miles per hour, depending on where they're putting this. And the only reason I go up to 70 miles per hour is because they say they're building a highway that can wirelessly charge while you drive, not a road that can wirelessly charge while you drive. Now, if this was like something they put at like a stoplight, then maybe, but like based on like what I currently know is available for wireless technology, and maybe there's been some massive breakthrough advancements that this is ready for prime time, but this seems like it is not ready for prime time, let alone at 200,000 kilowatt charging. Someone asked, what would happen when a gas car drives on that road? Would its battery explode? Nothing would happen. It's the same sort of thing that would happen if you put a cell phone that is incapable of wireless charging on a wireless charger. Nothing would happen. The handshake would never happen. No energy would be transferred, and there'd be nothing on the phone to receive it, even if energy were to try to be transferred. It's the same sort of reason why I can put my hand on a wireless charger and nothing would happen. My hand does not have any method of receiving electricity, so the energy sent through the copper coil would have nowhere to go and nowhere to receive it, so it would just dissipate and nothing would happen. This just... And yeah, as someone mentioned in chat, this would only be a certain lane too. So it's not like all 4 lanes or all 3 lanes, would be wirelessly charged for EVs. And the thing is, like, your EV has to have a receiver of some kind to receive the energy. Like, if I go ahead and grab a 10-year-old Tesla on the cheap, which would be the only way I'd be able to afford a Tesla, and try to drive on this road, nothing would happen because the car has no way to receive the energy. Now, I know the argument. The argument is going to be, well, someone has to go ahead and start this technology, because then you have a chicken and the egg sort of scenario. Why build in? Why not? Why would you go ahead and take a car that has wireless charging tech capability if there's nowhere to wirelessly charge it? You can already hear the arguments. And there's something to be said for that. I just think, like, maybe you'd want to start with, like, maybe some parking spaces rather than go ahead and do an entire stretch of road. Because what if it turns out you go ahead and do this whole sort of thing and it doesn't work? It's going to end up being a multi-million, maybe even $1 billion boondoggle that now the Floridians are going to be spending years upon years upon years of their tax dollars to go ahead and overcome. This just kind of just goes into the territory of pipe dreams. One might argue to have a better shot of trying to wirelessly charge on the go with solar panels, even though solar panels just don't generate that kind of power. Let's talk about something that does exist, though. Pebble is back. That's right. Pebble is back. Oh my God. And in fact, they have their round watch face. The Pebble Round 2 is back, utilizing an e-ink display yet again, just like the original Pebble. So it will have absurd battery life, and it will, in fact, much like the original Pebble Round, have only the basic of functionality. It's not going to have a built-in heart monitor. It will have the ability for notifications. It will be able to tell time. It will have some basic health monitors. It is meant to be exactly what Pebble always has been, an entry-level smartwatch. We're so back. And I'll tell you what, as the owner of a current smartwatch that just doesn't respond when I hit buttons, man, Pebble being back is fantastic. I, for one, welcome our Pebble overlords. Huzzah, huzzah, huzzah. Meanwhile, though, in strange health stories that seems like science fiction, but actually may not be as far science fiction as you originally thought, which is a segment name that really needs to be shortened, there is a new implant, smaller than a coin, that could be put under the scalp that could restore lost senses through prosthetics. This means your ability to touch, feel, which are the same thing, all those sort of sensations could be restored thanks to this implant. Very, very interesting. Now, currently, this is all under the territory of we've tested it in a lab and it should in theory work. This is not ready for prime time yet, but it is very interesting the kind of medical advancements that are being done right now. Someone in chat has no brain connection like Neuralink. I would imagine there would have to be some kind of brain connection because all your senses go through the brain. I imagine it would have to somehow. I just don't know how. Still, though, an interesting advancement. Unfortunately, it's still in the testing phase. It is not just being like, oh, we can do it out of nowhere and into brain it go. Tests first. Important step. Test your stuff first. And finally, I bring you the last the last story of the day, the weirdest story of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, this is beyond bizarre. I really do want to know who thought this was a good idea. But there are multiple tech startups now that are chasing a new employee perk. And it sounds dystopian AF. Because tech startups are now starting to hand out nicotine pouches as a productivity perk. Yeah, handing out various forms of nicotine so that their employees stay productive and focused. What? Doctors are, of course, worried that this is going to go ahead and start a new wave of addiction. No! Really? This sounds like something that someone would made up. Are we sure this isn't made up? Am I actually not looking at The Onion? Did The Onion change their name to the New York Post? Like, this doesn't feel like a real article. This seems like something that would have been taken from, like, Demolition Man or some kind of just some kind of satirical sci-fi works. I just, oh man. Part of me does hope that this is exaggerated and fake, but at the same time, you know, with all the other absolutely insane things I have heard about how cutthroat the tech sector is, I unfortunately have to look at this and say I am shocked, but I am not surprised. Also, someone in chat asked me, how do I use the 3 seashells? And the answer is very simple. I take the 3 seashells, I chuck them at the person who asked if I know how to use the 3 seashells, and then I use the frickin' bidet that is in the future toilet. Folks, that is going to do it for this episode of Eagle Eyes on Tech. Thank you so much for listening, and I do encourage you to check out my other works, youtube.com/EagleFalcon, and of course, twitch.tv/EagleFalcon. Take care, and I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye. By the way, next week is CES. I don't know what we're gonna do about the rewards because The Verge is now gonna put their crappy awards behind a paywall. But we'll find someone else to make fun of, or maybe The Verge will come to their senses and at least put that out and about for me to make fun of. Or maybe I can find a way around the paywall. I don't know. We'll find out. I know no one has commented on it yet, but I do want to get out there as to what our theme this time is for our bumpers. Normally, we just go ahead and have like remixes of video game tracks that are either just public use or people have just told me, yeah, you can go ahead and use it. This time around, we're intentionally using all chiptune music. And the sole reason we are using all chiptune music for our bumpers this year is for one reason and one reason only. It's to save on RAM usage. Clearly. I mean, chiptune has to use less RAM, right?